Okay, so this is Adam Dolezal here, and we're going to be showing how to do one of these expanded apiary inspections for 2020. And so here you can see we've just arrived at an apiary. We can see a number of different colonies. We want to try to choose ones kind of haphazardly and not pick and choose which we might want. And so one way to do this is to just pick the ones on opposite ends of the apiary. So we might have this one here with the smoker on it, and then that one over there with the yellow deep at the bottom. But before we begin the inspection, with just the paperwork, we can start to fill out some things. So we can see we can write down inspector's name, the date, the owner's name, their registration number, the number of hives at the apiary. This is important because it allows us to double check against the apiary registries. And then when we look at the different hives, we've got space on the form for 4 hives. Now the minimum we're shooting for is 2 per apiary, but if you have the time and interest to do more, that's great. We can see the first 4 things to write down, we don't even have to open the hives for. Frame numbers per box, almost everyone's going to be a 10. Number of shallows, mediums, and deeps. We'll look over at that colony we're going to inspect, and we see we've got 2 mediums and 2 deeps. So we can write that down here. Then we get to the first things that we're actually going to do. We're going to weigh the colony using the crane scale hook. We're going to estimate frames of bees very quickly. And then we're going to get a varroa count. We'll also do whatever level of observation of the queen status we can. Write down any presence of disease, just like in the normal inspection. And then try to get a very rough estimate for small hive beetle. While all this is going on the back or on the separate sheet, you have information to collect from the beekeeper if they're present. So you can either ask these questions to them or you can let them fill out the sheet on their own. Some of this information is about their operation. Some of it is about the hives themselves. Again, any information that's missing is just left blank. It's okay. The critical points are going to be the location of the hives, the varroa count. That's our main goal here. If you get to a site and the beekeeper does not want to participate in the study, specifically they don't want you to do a varroa wash, please just write refuse inspection and then have them sign off on it. Again, this is a really important thing to monitor, because knowing how many people aren't interested in and don't normally do varroa inspections is really important to know. You can actually, if you can, ask if they do normally monitor for mites. That's one of the questions on the back, and just collect that information if possible. Again, we're not here to force anybody to do anything, but it's useful to write down who won't do it. And make sure they understand they're not getting in trouble for this. It's just survey information. We just want to know how common different monitoring and different treatments are throughout the state. Okay, so after we've recorded that information about just what kind of boxes they're using, how many there are, if possible, we want to take a very simple weight. And so we can use the hive crane scale, like the ones you've all been given. There's detailed instructions on how to use them at the front of the packet. And these work by just hooking them at the sides of the colonies and then lifting. And so you want to lift until it stops being hard, or it gets easier, because that means you've gone point past the maximum point. And so you should have weighed approximately half of the hive. This one was 102 pounds. Then we can walk over to the other side. We can see this says 107 pounds. And so we can write those numbers down for side 1 and side 2. For those of you who have colonies with pallets, you're probably not going to be able to do this. If you can do just one side and not the other, that's okay too. Just do the one side and write it down. You can also do it from the front or from the back, again, depending on how the colonies are put together. Okay, so next we want to do an estimate of frames of bees using the bee-informed partnership method. The goal here is just to get a really rough estimate on the colony size. You don't have to pull up any frames for this, and it doesn't have to take long. The way that we usually do it, in a 2 deeper like this, crack this one, and then tilt it up, and we can count on the bottom here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 frames of bees. And then we can look down on this one. We could tilt it up, but for the sake of time, we don't have to. And we can kind of guess how many frames of bees there are in here. And so we can see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, about 7. So from these 2 deeps, we have about 17 frames of bees, seams of bees. You can do a similar estimate with the mediums if there are a lot of bees in there. Again, it's a rough estimate, so just do your best. It's better to get a rough estimate quickly than to spend a lot of time to get a more accurate estimate. So then, the next thing we want to do is the mite count itself. So we're going to go through and find a frame that has some open brood on it, some nurse bees. I've already done that. Usually you'll find one of these in the normal course of an inspection. Then we can use this mite easy check. And there's a lot of different ways to do this. You could shake it into a tub. That's kind of a problem from pathogen sharing between beekeepers. And so these are nice because you can just take the cup and just kind of gently run them down, and the bees will just fall in there. And there are 2 lines inside the cup that show you how full it should be. And so, with that, I've already filled the cup. Of course, you want to be really careful. The queen's not in there, the queen's not on the frame, and I understand that beekeepers get nervous about that part. We then put it in the easy check. Carefully close it up. If you cross thread it, it will leak. And then we want to just shake it for 30 seconds. I'm not going to do that right now, but then at the end of 30 seconds, you can just go under and look and count any mites that are on the bottom of this, and that's your mite recording. Now at the same time you're in there, you'll probably see something that you can report about the queen. In this colony, I've seen eggs, so I know the queen's present. I'm going to circle that on the sheet. In your normal inspection, you're also writing down diseases that you might observe. You can also circle those on this sheet. The final thing on the sheet is a question about small hive beetles. And very crudely, we want to see where small hive beetles are occurring. And so in my normal inspection of this hive, I saw 1 small hive beetle running around. I didn't see a bunch of them on the top cover. I didn't see any brood or honey swarming with them. And so I'm going to circle that lowest number that I observed 1. If there were over 30 or over 40, you would just circle that. That's about as good as we can get right now.